You're live. What's up? All right. I want to hop on and just talk about what I've been thinking about creating. I've kind of been planning out a bit of a hybrid between like self-taught and coding boot camps because I've mentored thousands of developers. I kind of figured out a lot of the holes that exist. And yeah, I've just been seriously considering finally building something out that I think would be really helpful for a lot of people, especially that are on the self-taught path. So kind of just want to talk things out and get people's feedback, especially from the community. But yeah, I'm actually going to load up. Let me go ahead and put on some music. We'll toss it in Discord. Let me do Discord first. And then I'll go ahead and pull up a Notion doc. And I kind of want to show a rough draft of what I was thinking. And just hear your thoughts on it. So let's go content releases, live, talking through program. I'll most likely be offering in January, offering starting in January for aspiring front end developers. Even if you're not interested, I'd love to hear your feedback. All right, boom. Nope, wrong link. Just listening, not talking as I'm working right now. All right, you're cool, Anthony. Hope you're having a good day. You're good, though. Let's grab the correct link so I can toss it in Discord. But what's up? How's everyone doing? I gotta switch my headset. All right. It's only Tuesday of this week, isn't it? Only Tuesday. All right, so we toss it in Discord. Let's put on some music. What's up, Renee? How you doing? Where are you? Okay, got to switch over my headset. All right, we're almost there. And then I'll load up the Notion doc, and I kind of just want to go through some of the things I've been planning out. All right. Oh, sounds like a rough day, Anthony. I'm sorry to hear that, man. Hope your day gets better. All right. I think everything's good. Okay, we can turn the music up just a little bit. There we go. Recently, I got hired for an email developer, second day on the job. Let's go, Renee. That's pretty cool, man. How's it going? Yeah, first week, man. How's it going? That's exciting. All right, so let me pull chat over here. And then I'm going to pull up a Notion doc. And I'm going to write out and share my screen, show you what I'm thinking. All right, let's go. Notion.com, log in. Continue with email. Continue with password. All right. Okay. So, moderator policies. I want to make sure I'm not leaking anything. I haven't shared my Notion docs in a while. I don't think I am. All right, nice. Form, and then we'll actually go ahead and do page. And then outline. Empty page. Let's go ahead and share the screen. Experimental cohort outline. All right. There we go. It's a little rough, but I just need to get the hang of it. But I love it for being my first developer job. Nice, nice. Okay, so probably just a lot to take in. Probably a lot of responsibility at first. That's awesome, man. Yeah, email developer is something that can... I don't remember if you're going for a more traditional role and using that as a bit of a... Like, I don't know. You know, a lot of people, they get into positions like that where they end up enjoying it. You know, there's a career in something like that, too. And sometimes they, like, kind of, like, really get involved with email campaigns, really enjoy it. And they get, maybe they lean a little bit more into marketing, too. You know, you could go the traditional route and create that bridge from an email developer. That's definitely something. But man, like a lot of people just want to code. They just want to be in tech. And they're happy with stuff like that, which is awesome. So hope you enjoy it. All right, so let me go ahead and create the outline. So essentially, here's what I'm doing. I put out a community post. I made an announcement in Discord, and I got some signups already. And so what I'll be doing is, so what I'm doing, let me just say what I'm offering. In January, I kind of just want to take 8 people for 6 months and build them up as front-end developers from the beginning, right? So I have been thinking quite a bit. I've had like little notes here and there throughout the year when I considered something like this. But I was thinking about like, how can I do this? Because I think a lot of coding boot camps, what they do, they teach full stack in a shorter period of time, and they generally skip out on CSS. A lot of people coming out of coding boot camps generally have really shitty CSS fundamentals. They've leaned too hard on a CSS framework. And also, like, for a program that's supposed to be heavily focused on JavaScript, probably because it's focused on, like, heavy framework, heavy backend, kind of heavy Node.js, but, like, they split it, right? You think, I want to dive deep into JavaScript. So we're going to teach front end and back end to make you a little bit more marketable, but they don't give enough time to create this depth of knowledge among developers that are going to be working with JavaScript. That's why most JavaScript developers don't get entry-level back-end positions. They get a little bit more front-end positions because usually the programs will focus and they'll be stronger on the front end. But still, like, their JavaScript fundamentals somehow seem to suck, and a lot of coding bootcamps truly focus so much on frameworks. They focus on libraries. They focus on the marketable applications, the abstractions that you'll probably be using. But a lot of companies want to hire good software engineers with a solid foundation. And it's why so many companies are leaning more on hiring CS grads, because those CS grads have that solid foundation and you could build upon that. And I think coding bootcamps have fucked up royally because they just keep accepting everyone, every single person into their program. And like the ratios got really high with, like, you know, one instructor to 20 people, 30 people, 40 people. So I want to take 8 people and kind of just like take a curriculum and add tons of extra small projects, extra challenges, mentorship. I want to create a part-time program that actually builds deep knowledge in CSS and JavaScript, builds deeper knowledge with HTML, like actually caring about HTML accessibility, actually caring about SEO and what that means, because a lot of companies profit off of organic search. I want to like build really good front-end developers. So that's the whole purpose of this. I love mentoring people. I love tutoring people. I used to do it all the time as a professional developer. I had a meetup in Chicago where I do it all the time, and I would teach. It was so much fun. That's what I want to do. And I think there are a lot of, like, most of the front-end developers that you are going to be competing against that are also applying for the same positions, they're just cookie-cutter developers that are learning what, like, kind of the bare minimum that they think they should learn, and they are all building the same types of projects. There's no projects that stand out. They don't know how to market it. Their projects don't look professional. They don't look like products. They're just cookie cutter developers that are having a really hard time, and then they execute on a really shitty job search strategy. So lack of depth of knowledge. So this is like the big holes in the self-taught path from the self-taught developers I see. Like a huge lack of in-depth knowledge with CSS and JavaScript, and a huge lack of just like a very poor job search strategy. And usually people just go the cold application route, and they'll do a really crappy version of it. And so this program, it's experimental, literally, but it's just going to be built on solving those two big problems with the self-taught path. So that's to give you a little bit of an overview. That's the whole purpose of this. What is going to be your criteria for picking the 8 people for the thing? I'll actually spell it out. Let me just start writing. Criteria for choosing people. Beginners that have, let me think through this, and I'll write it out as I'm thinking through it. So beginners that have spent 2 to 4 weeks with self-taught and really find enjoyment with learning to code. Self-taught, mostly front end. I don't know. Like if you're going the JavaScript route, front end or heavy JavaScript, really find enjoyment with learning to code. I think it's enjoyment and commitment. I think it's spending a little bit of time to figure out if you even want to go down this path. It's really, so I don't want to go into details, because what I found is when I give out a bunch of criteria, when people fill out forms, they act like they think they're supposed to act. You know what I mean? So I think it's like really going to come down to 2 things. Without going into detail, it's like, don't be an asshole. Have some humility. And really like enjoy coding. I want curious people that want to build and become good at their craft, right? This is the main thing. I don't want to go into details. Like I said, when I do forms and stuff, people just like they'll act the way they think they're supposed to act. And I don't like that. I used to do that with my old mentorship sessions. I'd be very specific. I'm still kind of specific in who I choose to mentor, but it's really about like attitude. This is the big one. I can work with someone with a really good attitude. It really comes down to humility and curiosity, like enjoyment with coding. You have those 2 things, like I can work with you. That's probably the main thing. But it's someone that's like, it's probably going to be like part-timers. I don't think I'm doing full-time. Because I want you to keep your jobs. I just want you to keep your jobs. We're in a rough job market. I don't want you to quit your job. Keep paying the bills. Part-time, probably people that are working a full-time or part-time or full-time job to pay the bills. And that's pretty much it. So only total beginners. I've been coding for 1.5 years, struggling to land my first role. I enjoy building stuff. So I've gotten, with the signups I've gotten, there are several people that like had a crappy coding bootcamp experience that essentially had, do I want to listen to this? Or I think I want to listen to Synthwave. Yeah, let's go Synthwave. Here we go. That have been doing the self-taught for like 6 months, 8 months, right? They built some projects. I want people, I don't care the amount of time that you spent on your journey. I want people that are willing to dive back into the fundamentals and challenge themselves. So here is kind of my philosophy on, I think there are stages of just like, even if you think of like a JavaScript developer, there was kind of a common set of stages where you learn, you try to get a solid foundation, with JavaScript, with CSS, with HTML, and you build upon that, right? You build small projects along the way, and then you really challenge your JavaScript skills, right? You're just like, okay, I could create interactivity on the website. I could mess with the DOM, right? And there's a lot you can do. And I started learning about event listeners and just different things that could create more interactivity, but on the client specifically, right? And a lot of those tutorials never really went deep into giving you a solid programming foundation. So then you would dive deep into JavaScript. Then you would dive into React, right? And by that time, you should have a few projects, and then you start building more projects with React. Some people would go back into their old projects. They'd replace their front end with React. Some people would build a new project with React. And that was kind of the traditional model. Then you kept building projects and projects and projects. What I found is a lot of people that came from crappy coding boot camps, their foundations just sucked. They never got a good foundation, and then they would just pick up a React tutorial, and then they would be able to build simple Reacts, right? Because most apps don't require a lot of complexity. They just don't with React, right? And that you would never have to introduce something like Redux, nothing like that. And so if you are someone that you had a crappy coding bootcamp experience, or you built a few projects with a self-taught, but you most likely like truly lack a lot of good, like a solid foundation, which you're going to get weeded out for in the interviews. Like if you are willing to go back to the beginning and really get those foundations down, that's fine. I don't know if the first 2 months are going to like be worth the value that you would pay. So that's my honest opinion about that. Because it's probably going to be about $500 a month for 6 months. I don't know if you're going to get that value of $500 those first 2 months, but I'm going to bring people up to speed that aren't quite where you are. And that is going to be my priority. I can try to supplement, right? But ultimately, like you kind of got to be willing to dive deep into the foundation and challenge yourself. Do I really know this? So like the traditional path essentially was for JavaScript developers. You get a very common recommendation of you don't know JS when you have like 1 or 2 years of experience, and you dive deep into JavaScript. You dive deep into JavaScript and truly try to understand it a lot better once you have some experience, once you built tons of projects, right? So I think the depth that we're going to be going into JavaScript is going to be more. But like I said, first 2 months, I can't promise you're going to get the value, the full value. So that's the thing. You have to decide. Keep in mind, I'm going to like I should just start writing some of this out, because like all this, it's in my head, but I want to write out this outline so you have it in front of me. It's awesome what you were planning. I'm excited about it. I used to mentor people all the time. I used to teach all the time. It was fun. I miss it, man. Like I just think about this business, and I've been just creating content. And I'm going to be honest, I've kind of been getting burned out of just creating YouTube videos. I don't want to just talk. I like these talking head videos. I like the live streams. I like the interaction. But man, I am not a YouTuber. I love teaching. I love mentoring people. I don't want to be a YouTuber. YouTuber's like, it should be a supplement to my business to be able to grow my audience. But man, I want to teach, and yeah, I just want to teach. What's up, David? How you doing? All right, so essentially the details. Let's just go over like the very basics. 6 months, $500 a month. Month 1 through 4 is learning. It's learning a little DSA. I want to start that early. Definitely source control. I mean, like, I can go over... Let's just do learning for now. Month 1 through 4 is learning, right? So HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, right? And then I'm going to create more supplementation. I'm not going to categorize these very well. I'm just putting my thoughts out there. So basic, we'll say like fundamental SEO and UX. Fundamental SEO, UX, source control, and probably dive into something like Redux. Testing, I don't know if it's going to be React testing library, or something like Jest, Enzyme. Intro to, I'll say like exposure, DSA fundamentals, because I want to do a lot of DSA challenges in month 5 while you're building the project. So DSA fundamentals, and I think this is a solid foundation in terms of your learning. I want to see what CSS fundamentals I want to introduce. But generally, I think it's going to be like DSA CS fundamentals. That I think is going to be very relevant for most front-end positions. I think it's going to be light on the CS, but it's going to be slightly heavier on the DSA. I think a lot of aspiring front-end developers do not spend time with data structures and algorithms like they should. It's heavily tested for in interviews, even in the front end. So you got to be careful with that. I think a lot of people are weak in that area. And then month 5. I enjoy how you also do a little teaching. Thanks. I enjoy it too. Yeah, I haven't done it. Man, technically, I haven't done it a lot lately. It's kind of disappointing. It really is sad, but yes, I actually do love teaching. One of my favorite things about, just being a professional developer was like mentoring technically junior developers and kind of just like getting them to discover. And like seeing them get excited when they kind of take ownership of what they've just learned, right? They get their aha moments. Because I don't spoon feed answers. I just don't. I don't think that's a good method. I think initially getting people unstuck and providing a little bit more hand holding is it's a good idea, but it just depends on the concept and the situation. And it depends on the personality. But like, this is very much going to be like, actually, resourceful is probably going to be a trait that I'm going to look for. I'll just put that. I'm good, done. Just got home from work. How are you? Nice. Hope work went well. I'm doing pretty well. Life's good. It's only Tuesday. It's only Tuesday. It feels like it's later in the week. I don't know. It feels like it's later, but it's only Tuesday. G'day, show. What's up? It's great to see. I actually made something similar for aspiring data analysts. Nice. That's really cool. How did it go? This sounds awesome. It will be. But it's like at the end of the day, I want to emphasize 100% experimental. It's why I started at a higher price. It's why I lowered it. It's 100% experimental. It's going to take everything that I know and have learned. And I'm kind of like, I think what I'm going... So this is also another thing. So I'm basically licensing a curriculum, which also allows me to keep the price low. Here's my philosophy on curriculums. And this is why I don't make any... I mean, there are several reasons why I don't make any general recommendations on what courses you should go through. Like, I've explained this 1,000 times, is why I don't answer the question anymore in chat, usually. But the curriculum that you choose can easily be supplemented. Most curriculums, even like bad coding boot camps, kind of give you enough of an outline and they teach you how to learn, right? So you can supplement from there. I think the curriculum is the curriculum that you are paying for is worth very little. And I kind of feel bad for curriculum developers because it takes a long time to develop curriculums, but there are so many out there. There just are. When you even go to a coding bootcamp, you're not paying for a curriculum. You're just not. It's a very low value. Most people are paying for the career services and the mentorship, the instruction, right? But so it's licensing a curriculum where it's going to be self-taught, and then basically with meeting 3 to 4 times per week for live discussion on complicated, or we'll say complex topics, extra assignments, project assignments, and challenges. I kind of want like a foundational curriculum that I can build on. I think the curriculum itself is kind of irrelevant because what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be picking and choosing pieces of the curriculum, and I'm going to say, do this, don't do this. Supplement with this, don't supplement with this. Let's go over it, right? The next week or something like that. That's what I want to do. That's my whole... I just like a lot of people spend way too much time trying to find the right course, the right curriculum. And I think it's one of the most unimportant pieces of your coding journey because you're going to realize no curriculum teaches everything and you're going to need to supplement. The goal is to be able to become resourceful, to learn how to fill your gaps, right? And that's the main thing I want to teach you. I don't want to create like dependent people that need to constantly reference this. If I've done that, if like people within this program are constantly referencing the curriculum like month 5, month 6, I fucked up. Like that's my philosophy on it. I fucked up. You should be looking up documentation. You should be learning Google. You should learn a proper way to find mentorship through AI, right? Like if you obviously you're going to get the mentorship from me, but like, you know, in the off hours, you should be able to look stuff up. You should be able to navigate Stack Overflow. So that's what I'm mainly trying to build in people. But yeah, that's month 1 to 4. And I think month 4 gives me a little bit of breathing room to be able to teach some extra stuff. Should professional devs that did not DSA practice it? I did not have to do a DSA for my job and did not practice it. Most will. Again, Mobek, you ask a lot of questions that are outside the US too. This is US based. So remind me your country again, because you did say you were not from the US, right? I would say all my advice is for US. Anything else, most of it's going to carry over to other countries, but most of it's for US. So you have to give me more context around that, Mobek. Yo, what's up? Happy Tuesday, Jessa. Yeah, Norway? I have no idea. I don't know the culture in Norway. No idea, Mobek. You had one single interview. If you go into other interviews, I would just reach out to professional developers and try to get a feel for what interviews they went through. That's what I would do. Because every country is going to have its own culture. Even in different states within the United States, the type of interviews can change a little bit, but generally it's pretty consistent across the US, and it really varies based on industry and the type of job. You can check the curriculum of most Udemy Code Academy courses and learn on your own. Yeah, the curriculum is not important. It's not important. The material is there. It's out there. I know I'm late to this stream. How did you come up with a price point? Just looking at different prices. I wanted it between self-taught and kind of a coding bootcamp. And it ends up being like $3,000 for 6 months. Incredibly cheap for the mentorship. And actually, let me build this in too. Let me finish this. But it was just doing like research for the pricing. I actually wanted it to be more, but I actually lowered the price just because, like I said, it's the first cohort. I don't want it to be a coding bootcamp. It's highly focused on group mentorship. But it's not, like, you know, if you don't, honestly, if you don't have a lot of money, like, you should really push for the self-taught path and just try to get resources. Pay $25 a month for some plan, buy Udemy courses, anything like that. Like, try that out and see where your gaps are. Like I said, you could supplement all of this. The problem is most self-taught developers, they just fail. Why is that? It's really a lack of mentorship and guidance. That's the main thing with it. So month 5, it's month 5 is Capstone group project. Probably, like, it's most likely group project. That's it, right? And then DSA. We're going heavier into DSA challenges. And then month 6. 6 is career services. We'll say like job hunting course. So I've been building out this job hunting course, but paired with one-on-one sessions. Or I could even say like Zoom calls to create the right job search strategy for you, resume reviews, cover letter advice, etc. Right? This, I can do it exceptionally well, way better than almost any coding bootcamp. I've listened to all the advice out there. I can do this way better. This month is, man, This month is probably going to be one of the most important. When I see a lot of aspiring developers attempt things, like, man, there's so many reasons why aspiring developers give up, but I think a big reason is they don't know how to properly assess if they're doing well in the job search. M.H. Shimoda, welcome. They have no idea, right? You're going to get tons of rejection. Do you assume that, like, if you get a call based on the resume that you submitted, that is a success, that your projects are getting better? Is that what that means? Not necessarily, right? And so a lot of people get like, oh, I've gotten 10 interviews, and they just want someone more experienced. Why do you think that is, right? Probably because your resume doesn't reflect what they're looking for. And so there's so many variables that affect that. I think a lot of people fuck this up. I actually think there are a decent number of people that, even though they lack a lot of fundamentals, like, they could get interviews, but they do a terrible job at presenting. They do a terrible job at interviewing. So it's probably going to be a mock interview, etc. I think this is going to be actually one of the most important pieces. This is something I'm going to have fun with. But this is essentially the outline. This could change, right? If I find that there are, like, some people are stronger in some areas and weaker in others, we could spend more time in those areas. That's what I'm planning on doing. But that's pretty much the outline. All right, I think that's a decent price when you consider bootcamps charge thousands of dollars. So, you know, if I had to break it down, I think the curriculum itself, I mean, for 4 months, you're probably paying like $100. I would argue you could pay for a curriculum for like $100, $150 for 4 months. Like a decent one. And so that's a very small portion of what you're paying. The big thing is the Capstone project. The thing I want to highlight, and this is where most coding bootcamp, I'm just going to write it down. Most coding bootcamps have you create templated projects that don't solve any real problems and have a very flaky agile scrum process that doesn't reflect a professional process you'll experience as a professional developer, which creates imposter syndrome and a misalignment of thinking that you are highly unprepared for an actual professional developer position. I think people put the work that you do as a developer on a pedestal. And I think going through the experience and getting the critical feedback, getting the critical code reviews, which most coding bootcamps won't do. They'll basically have group members, like only group members do the code reviews, and you're not really challenged on your conventions. Your planning isn't really user-centered, right? And it's because you're creating a templated project that's fun. You should create a project that's fun and solves a real problem. Create a real professional product. And it's most likely going to be a SaaS product. I'm going to be honest with you. It's most likely going to be building some tool or some SaaS product or something like that, building an actual landing page, focusing on accessibility. That's kind of what I want to focus on for the Capstone. That's another big hole I see in even just coding bootcamp grads is they just have cookie cutter projects all the time. They're uninteresting. They don't align with any industries. They don't align with actual professional developer positions, right? And I'm not even talking about the cat gallery videos. I'm talking about like basic dashboards. What is this dashboard for? Why did you have to think through the implementation? What is unique about this dashboard where what considerations did you have to make with, like, why did you include pagination? Why did you not include pagination? Have you thought through scalability? Have you thought through what this app might do? And have you thought through, like, even if you build an unscalable implementation, what happens when you get 20,000 users all of a sudden using your application? How is this app going to break down? Have you built anything to prevent that, right? Even just a basic implementation that's like, it might not like be scalable, but it can at least prevent the application from crashing in front of the user. I think these considerations aren't made with Capstone projects. And I just think, I don't know, I don't know why. So many people are coming out of coding boot camps without this reasoning behind more specific implementation. And what I'm describing is what professional developers think about. And so that's the whole idea of the Capstone, and I think the group project makes the most sense to be able to manage source control and go through the Scrum process. I mean, you could do that solo, but I still think it's important that people think through this stuff. Had a few interviews. Let's see. Had a few interviews. One was coding in front of the tech team, but most was just going through code, explain, and could have done better and about your background. Yeah, like I said, Mobec, research your area, man. Research your area. Be very careful. Like, if people are given advice for like the United States, do your research in the area and figure out what works for you. And yes, if you do like this live stream, please do like it. Helps boost it in the algorithm, and I do appreciate that. But yeah, can you challenge this? Can anyone start challenging this a bit? You got the price, but I'm very curious, like, specifically, what makes this worth it to you? What are you hoping to get out of this? Because in my mind, I have a good idea of what's going to kind of create a good developer, but the perception of it, like, the devil's in the details with this, and the perception of it is going to be very different than what's in my mind. So I'm kind of just curious what your perception is. I'm sure that someone asked this question, but out of all the applicants, what is your criteria for selecting a group? This right here. So beginners that have spent like 2 to 4 weeks with self-taught, like, mainly I just want to see, do you enjoy code? That's the main thing. Are you enjoying it? Are you committed? So like, probably like, I'd say maybe 2 to like 8 weeks with self-taught. If you're going to be over, you got to be prepared to go back into the fundamentals and like really get those down. And basically it's just attitude. Attitude's another one. I can work with people that are humble and that love coding. If you're humble and you love coding, I can work with you. Even if your communication skills aren't the best, I can work with that. It's really like, this is what makes a hireable developer. This is a big thing that a lot of people struggle with. This is probably something you're going to get feedback on too when I see people interacting with other people. But just humility and enjoy it. I'm telling you, these are like the 2 traits that I see among many successful developers that do land that first position. It's huge. You grow more from it. You interact more. And man, it's so... it's such a eye-opening experience to try to teach someone else. Like when we do a pair programming session, it's eye-opening to teach someone else what you don't know, walk through that implementation, have it solidified more in your mind, but do it in a way where you kind of like have to figure out where the person is with what they're learning. You have to like figure out, okay, do I need to spoon feed this a little bit, or do I need to pull back and let them try to solve it, right? You even doing that, showing that perception that you can read people in that way is huge. This is a really important trait as a professional developer, and I think that can come through with pair programming and group project work. I don't think junior devs think or are expected to think about scalability, but it's a big plus. I 100% disagree. I think scalability is something, given this market, that is an expectation. It doesn't mean you're scaling to the size of like an application with the number of users that, like, if Google built an application. But scalability is 100% something that you should consider, right? And so even the idea, I gave the example of pagination. I think you should know pagination. I think you should fully understand what is going to be the consequence of gathering a huge resource from the database and just gathering all the data and then paginating it from the front end and doing that logic on the front end to paginate it, versus understanding how pagination can work and what that looks like and that's different in the API calls. That is something that I really think more aspiring developers need to consider. What's up, Elias? How you doing? You got to keep in mind, like 7 years ago when I was becoming a developer, I would argue like getting just some exposure to something like pagination, that was a bonus, like you're saying. That was 7 years ago. We're talking about the market now. We're talking about what companies are looking for now. The bar has risen, and way too many developers fail to meet the standards. Way too many developers think they can get away with like very, what do I want to say? Like uncomplex solutions. They don't make these considerations, right? So it's just, I hate seeing all these developers that just keep falling short. And for some reason, it's content creators, it's courses that don't follow through. Even the course material I'm going to be going through, it's lacking. I'm going to be supplementing it. I'm going to be giving resources. I'm going to be giving project ideas. I'm going to be giving all this other stuff to supplement, to like actually bring people up to a real skill level that's going to be hireable and marketable among hundreds of other front-end developers that are applying for the same position. It's like, for some reason, and it's coding bootcamps too, that keep putting out these like surface level knowledge cookie cutter developers that just break under pressure. They just break under pressure. They struggle with talking through implementation. They aren't confident in what they're doing, and it primarily falls on them really having poor, like they don't have a foundation. They don't have solid programming knowledge. It's just, I would say majority of the people that you are competing with and that are probably listening to me right now, you have surface level knowledge, and you have to go so much deeper for what companies are looking for, and for what I think they're going to be looking for throughout 2024. It's just sad to see, because like everyone's hungry for it. Everyone, like, well, not everyone. There are a lot of people that really want a coding position, but they just get discouraged and they just stop learning. They stop building. They stop challenging themselves over time. And it's sad. I want to see more people be successful with this. I just say networking is very important. I network my ass off. Luckily for me, one of my connections recommended to the job I'm at right now. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Networking is huge. Even in the job search course that I'm creating. I think I've solidified what, like, at least 2 sections I'm doing in the course, and I'm going to break down everything within those sections. The first one is going to be like the perfect cold application approach. What 99% of people are probably doing, they're probably doing like 30%, 20% of what I'm going to be teaching in that course. And like, you're not going to do everything. You can't do everything. But a lot of people could improve their cold application process in itself and do a way better job with that, because they're not standing out. But then the second section is going to be, okay, now let's up your game up. Now let's talk about networking. What the hell does that mean? Networking is huge. Like, most people won't even do a good cold application approach, and then they split a little bit of time into networking. What the hell does that mean? I go to a meetup, nothing happened. I didn't build any connections. Okay, that sucked. I'm not doing that again. I drive like 30 minutes, and like, that's usually the conversations I have with people. They try networking. That's not effective. Not an effective use of your time, and then they give up on it. And they're just like, okay, you know what? Companies just want more, so I'm going to learn more. I'm going to try to build another project, right? And this is what I can do with my new skills. Fuck, no calls back. Okay, well, what do I... And like, people kind of just... They never really built a system or a process to analyze how they could figure out what they're doing effectively and what they're not doing effectively. But a lot of people give up on networking. They don't... Like, when you think networking, I think a lot of people think of like some random stuffy networking event, when, you know, like, a lot of us as developers, we start out as, you know, socially awkward a little bit. And that's okay. And we're like, man, I don't want to go to this event. I just want to code. Let me build my skills. Let me code. I don't want to meet people and go to this stuffy networking event. That's not what networking is. You can do that. But holy shit, is that one of the, like, that is like 2% of what you could do. And you probably shouldn't even do it if that doesn't even sound enjoyable to you, to actually build up meaningful connections. It's like, networking is powerful, but I don't think people really know how to build meaningful connections that are going to play out and be that, like, and actually pull you into companies, be that reference letter. I think a lot of people struggle with that because I think a lot of people just give up on it because it just sounds like something you're forced to do. But yes, to summarize that, networking is king. Me for real? Yeah, I'm not amazing at networking, but I'm better than what I was 7 years ago. I can tell you that. But I never went to networking events. Fuck that. I went to one networking event just because, like, I had a friend. I knew the director at Full Stack Academy, and he invited me to it. And I'm like, why not? And there was free alcohol. I don't even remember why I went. When someone found out I was on YouTube, I only had like 2,000 subscribers at the time. They're like, oh, and they wanted me to sell their product. I'm like, man, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to drink. Like, it was just stupid. There was no point me going to that networking event. I hate them. They're so stuffy. They're so fake. Everyone wants something, right? Even if they, like, try to, like, listen to what you have to say, they've been told to listen to what you have to say. And that's the effective approach for a networking event. It's like, man, I fucking hate these things. You are also looking for a time commitment. Yep. I know some people will try to juggle their full-time job while also doing the mentorship. That's 100% what you're going to be doing. Yeah. I don't think I want to do it full-time. And so 3 to 4 times a week. Actually, let me say this. 3 hours per day. I think this might not be required at 3 hours per day, but I want to be available. Here, where I am available for 3 hours per day. But yeah, I would argue you're probably going to have to dedicate, like if it's 8 people, I want to make myself available 12 hours a week. At least 12 hours a week. You're going to have to spend some time outside of the job, for sure. Yeah, I can't help you if you can't invest a little bit of time. All right, sounds good, Jessa. Yeah, we do that at the job, and they explain why we have to do it in the back end. Gotcha, okay. What's the course you're going through? What's the course? What do you mean? Basically, everything we just talked about. Because, David, you signed up, right? You kind of already know about it? Or were you talking about, like, the job hunting course I was talking about? But thank you for explaining how we can think about scalability. Yeah, and that's just an example, right? I think sometimes when people think about scalability, you're thinking about like, okay, fuck, good architecture, code scalability. I'm not even talking about like code scalability. I think code maintainability is important. I think like you're going to have limited learning with code scalability. You're going to get some exposure to it, but I don't think it's going to be your priority. But scalability in terms of like the data that you're going to be reading and manipulating is huge. I think like focusing on architecture is something coding bootcamps lack with, and I think that's important, especially with React. But yeah, like I guess, you know, scalability is a pretty broad term, but I do think it's important to think about. Honestly, a bootcamp that spent the whole time coaching people how to talk about development would probably see a bigger, higher rate than coding ones. Then learning? I would agree, like, I think coding bootcamps should be able to get people to articulate through the interviews. I think the, like, mock interviews are very valuable. But yeah, that's where pair programming does come in handy, in talking through your implementation, doing DSA challenge problems. I think that's all really helpful. I feel like most coding bootcamps severely lack that. I haven't like really done a lot of research on how much practice coding bootcamps give you with DSA. Because you should be paired with someone. Like, you should be the interviewer and you should be the interviewee. You should practice being the interviewer and the interviewee in coding challenges. You should rotate, right? And you should get the experience of both. I think that's important. You feel there is a shortage of jobs, or that we are in the middle of a recession? Both. I mean, like, I'm not going to really go into the details of is this officially a recession, but I would argue the job market is heavily influenced by the economy. Honestly, that sounds like the perfect type of course for someone like me. I've been in IT systems support for 10 years and looking for a job change. Start coding a little bit, Choco Biddies. Start coding a little bit, see if you enjoy it. That's your next step. But yeah, it's going to be for a lot of career changers that are kind of just getting started. That's the main thing. A lot of developers are introverts and still make good developers. They make good developers, but we're talking about getting the job. But it's still like you being an introvert. Here's the thing. When you define yourself as an introvert, a lot of people will just say they suck at interacting with people because they're an introvert. That's a bullshit excuse. That is a completely bullshit excuse. So, you know, when you say that statement, there's a lot of depth to that conversation. Because there's a lot of people that make excuses for not building social skills, not being able to interact with other people, and just saying, oh, I'm an introvert. Like, that's victimhood. That's you basically accepting an extremely limited version of yourself that you do not have control over, and fuck it, right? And I'm not saying that's what you're implying, but I think that's actually a really good point, because I do hear a lot of people that are just like, they give up and they blame external factors or just even like biology or like upbringing on like, this is just who I am now, right? They're 20, they're 30, they're 40, they're 50. This is just who I am now. I've had so many years to build this up. I'm just an introvert, right? And what I want to challenge people with is look at introvert as someone who truly enjoys a lot of solo time, who can get exhausted doing group after group after group. I find that true introverts, their energy gets expended very quickly when they're around a lot of people, and that's for different reasons. And I would say, like, if you're going to define yourself as an introvert, use that definition. But it doesn't mean that when you are interacting with someone else, it doesn't mean you can't build up your social skills. It doesn't mean you can't have an empathetic conversation. It doesn't mean that you can't socialize and be social. People that label themselves as introverts truly can be social, and they can get good with their social skills. They can network. They can build meaningful connections. They can maintain. But it's like, you know, it's a little bit more focused on really building meaningful connections, because you realize that your energy gets expended a lot quicker than people that would probably label themselves as extroverts. But I find a lot of people, they're just like, if you have poor social skills, you label yourself as an introvert. If you have really good social skills and you just built that skill up, you label yourself as an extrovert. I find that those definitions are just broken. They're just wrong. I've always got the impression that meetups are only fruitful if you give a talk. Meetups are very fruitful when you talk to others. When you participate in events, like hackathon stuff, especially. But why most people or most aspiring developers don't get, even professional developers don't get a lot of value out of meetups, is because they don't take the initiative to interact with other developers there. That's the big reason why people fail to get that value. And so you need to take that initiative. You need to be that one person, because you're going to be rare. A lot of people don't do this. But be that one person that introduces yourself. Hey, I'm Jailbro. Probably have an official name. That's not Jailbro. Hey, I'm Jailbro. I don't think we met yet. What do you think about the talk? Like, and just sparking up some conversation, right? When you're that person, you all of a sudden summon that respect from so many people because they are too afraid to do that. That's awesome. And you have a conversation, you get a feel for what they're doing, you get to learn what they're doing. Like, you could literally have most of the conversation just asking about them. You're creating a meaningful connection. You have no idea how powerful that is, and most people won't even do that. That's how you get value out of a meetup. That's huge. I like you're taking the label of introvert. I appreciate that, Marky. And the reason why I'm challenging it, the reason why I'm calling people lazy that box themselves in, the reason why I'm calling them, like, maybe victimhood isn't the right term for it, but I'm challenging the idea that you are stuck in a box. I think way too many people are comfortable with labels, because a lot of people struggle with self-identity, but a lot of people are, and when they struggle with self-identity, when they find a label that mostly fits how they feel at that time, it's like you feel a sense of kind of like weight lifted off your shoulders. Like you don't have to figure that part out of you. Not like you finally have identified something and you could gain a little bit of confidence in like who you are. And like these labels can help to some extent, but there's a certain point where like you get too comfortable with them. They limit you. Most people won't do scary things in life. Most people won't take risks. Most people won't do things that will truly build themselves up. Most people don't truly understand who they are as a person because they have an extremely limited life they've created for themselves that they box themselves in, and they have no idea what they're capable of. They have, like, when you experience different cultures, you talk to a lot more people, you go to different events, you try different activities, you have no idea the type of person you can evolve into. Most people are like here for most of their lives. And that's why so many people have so much regret. It's one reason. But like when you truly do get exposed to the world, which I encourage you for the next 20 years, 20 to 40, I mean, probably like, I don't know, 20 to 60, like really get some exposure into the world, and you're going to realize like these labels, these boxes that I've created for myself are only limiting. I think it helps to be humble and truly admit that you have no idea who the fuck you are. No one does. You're figuring that out for your entire life. Don't like, if these labels make you feel a little bit comfortable when you're truly feeling lost, fine, just don't let them limit you. You know what I mean? How much time are we talking about on average? Probably, well, that's a good question. Throughout the week, it has to be capped at 20. 20 with 40 hours a week is a lot. I don't think it should be 20. I think the 12 hours I make myself available for, I think not all of it should be required for people, because I think you're going to be spending a significant time in the actual material, with the self-taught material, with a curriculum. That's a great question. I think it should be 15. Because like you'll have the weekend to work on, you'll have like a Saturday to work on it. I'm going to highly encourage people not to do Sunday. Take a break. I don't believe in coding every day. I think that's harmful for you. I believe in taking breaks. And we'll like find the right fit for your schedule. I think it needs to be at least 15 hours a week. That's a really good question. Let me actually write that down. I don't know. I'm putting things where they don't belong, but I'm just going to put it here anyways. Actually, let's do this. 15 at least 15 hours per week. Love the, what's up, Eurochamp? Love to see this coming. Let me catch up on some chat. Sorry if I'm a little behind. Let me catch up. Love to see this coming to fruition. Keeping an eye out for more details. Subscribe to the Discord last week. Nice, but I haven't explored in the app much yet. Thanks for dedicating more time to this idea. You're welcome, Eurochamp. Hopefully you enjoy the Discord. It's possible to learn social skills. I don't like to communicate with people. When I was young, I avoided eye contact, but now people perceive me as very communicative because I practice a lot. That's awesome. Yeah, exactly. It's literally just a skill. It's not a personality trait that you're locked into of whether you're capable of socializing and building meaningful relationships. I work with people in my office job, but I'm still an introvert because I do feel like I do my best when I'm channeling my own efforts. Okay. You plan on covering TypeScript during the initial 4 months? It could be helpful for marketability, but might be too much for folks if they're coming in with only a couple months of experience. It would be at the end. I've considered TypeScript and I've considered Next.js. I think Next.js is too far. I think Next.js is something you will need to supplement if it's marketable in your area, and I think it's marketable in very few areas. So I'm like 90% sure I'm not going to be pushing for Next.js, but TypeScript, on the other hand, maybe. That's a good question. Within 4 months, I don't think TypeScript is unreasonable. It's going to be, like, I would argue, like, TypeScript. So here's the thing. Whoops. Most likely exposure to TypeScript. I'm like 50%. You know, if I have to say, like, how sure am I on these extra technologies? How sure am I on these extra technologies? Tech. So TypeScript is something that's still, it's not big. I don't think companies are going to, they want depth of knowledge with JavaScript. I think having exposure to TypeScript is helpful, and I don't think that's a big mark off if you don't know TypeScript, right? Like, if you don't, like, if I'm thinking of something extra, if you don't know React, that's probably a problem. That is a problem, like, if you're applying for front-end positions. But, like, TypeScript, 50%. Next.js, 10. Like, 10's high. I would say, like, something like Bootstrap, or we'll just say, like, a CSS libraries. Two I'm thinking of are Bootstrap and fuck. What's the one that everyone keeps talking about? I can't remember the name. It's Bootstrap and Tailwind. I'm like, I would argue SCSS is probably a little bit more important. So let's go like 70%. CSS libraries, Bootstrap, Tailwind, I think it's like 15. I think it's more than Next.js. Getting exposure. Like this is exposure. This is exposure. No, get out of here. This is probably like meaningful, and we're probably going to go into some depth. This is learn it if it's really marketable in your area afterwards. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, it's Tailwind. I think extroversion and introversion are real things. I agree. I never said they weren't. An introvert posing as an extrovert to a function in the world is a real thing. A lot of us do that. That is true. I would just be careful. Like I said, it's about being very careful. It's about being humble. It's about you trusting that you probably fucked up at identifying yourself, and you have a lot of self-growth that can be had, and you are not doing nearly enough in life to challenge who you truly are. I think it's about your mindset. I couldn't give a shit whether you label yourself as an introvert or extrovert. I care about the action that you take based on you labeling yourself as an introvert or extrovert. That's what I care about. I really don't give a fuck about these labels, and I think they're more harmful for a lot of people over time when they create a safety net of labels for themselves, and they don't challenge themselves outside, and they're not critical of the labels they've established. A lot of people, like I said, a lot of people struggle with self-identity, and a lot of people are unwilling to challenge the self-identity because it takes so long to, like, it takes so much energy, and it takes so long to, like, really try to build yourself up, gain emotional control, gain purpose, and, like, figure out, like, what the fuck fulfills you, what do you want in life, and why do you want that? Who are you, right? Like that, you're spending energy throughout your entire life figuring that out, and it's a lot of energy. And so I understand why people feel comfortable boxing themselves in, but I see it doing more harm than good. So many people are way more capable of what they think they are. And I think labels are they end up being a really big blocker for a lot of people from discovering who they actually are. I broke out of my social skills from my time in the military. Thankfully, so I feel comfortable to connect with people. Nice, Marky. What, I don't know if you ever told me. Do you mind sharing? What did you do in the military? Yeah, I can see that in the military. What's up, Northern Chimp? How you doing? Hey, man, Don. What's up, Madsky? How you doing, man? How's your night going? Preach Don. What's up, Black Kojak? Reading your criteria. Looks like I need to keep chugging away at free code camp 1 to 5 weeks in. Yeah. Yep. Like I said, I think the first 2 months, if you have been doing this for like 6 months to like, I don't know, 6 months, it's not that bad. Like, if you're 6 months in, you probably, like, you really suck with your fundamentals. Like, you probably, if most people really, really, really suck with their fundamentals at 6 months in. So if you're 6 months in, I think this is still for you. It just depends on where you're at. If you're like a year in, a year and a half in, you've built like a dozen basic projects, you have like a couple capstone projects, I would argue the first 2 months, probably not going to be worth the value for you. You just got to be willing to eat the cost. That's it. So maybe don't sign up for this and just like meet some professional software engineers and just supplement what you need. You know, the first 2 months are probably not going to be worth the price for you. But yeah, if you're just starting, like dive heavily into free code camp, build something small, try it out, see if you like it, see what you like about it. It's mainly for beginners, but I want you to spend a little bit of time to figure out like, you know, because 6 months is a commitment. I want to figure out if you actually like it. I don't want to bring in people that are just like, yeah, coding's not for me. Like, that's what I'm trying to avoid. I can work with a lot of people where you do enjoy coding, but if, you know, 3 months in, coding's not for you, it's like, I'd rather bring in someone where you're a little bit more sure. So that's mainly why I'm saying, like, you know, 2 to 8 weeks at least would be very helpful with spending with coding. And 2's probably on the smaller side. I saw a poll where most people said TS could be learned in 1 month. Not at all TS, but most TS can be learned very quickly. If you have good JavaScript fundamental, I think it's actually incredibly important to learn some of the like really shittier parts of JavaScript. You need to be comfortable with them. You're going to experience them. A lot of companies do not use TypeScript. And a lot of there are companies moving away from TypeScript. There are like big movements that are challenging TypeScript, right? A lot of people want the types built directly in to JavaScript. There's a lot of talk around that. I think generally you're going to be working with types in a scalable application. But what you use to do that might not be TypeScript. And when you are working with types, I feel like that's something that can be learned very quickly. A lot quicker than you think if you have a really solid foundation. I don't think TypeScript is something that takes a long time to learn. I don't think just building, like using any sort of library that does integrate types takes a long time to learn. I just don't, right? I think you can become a good JavaScript developer and you're going to, like in the beginning, you're going to, you know, the coercion with JavaScript is going to fuck with you. It is, and you're going to learn from it. I want you to make these, excuse me, I drank a protein drink really quickly right before this. The coercion with JavaScript and just like thinking it's going to be a certain type and like then your application scales and then you forgot what the type is and then you're sending data through several functions and like you're wondering and it ends up like breaking your application because it's like it expected a certain type and you just forgot, right? Sometimes it's hard to track down the data and just remember certain parts of your application. So I do think if you're going to build a scalable application and your code base broadens or it just grows, I think types are really good for scalability. But I find that over time, when you experience enough of the type errors, you start creating way less type errors as a good JavaScript developer. And that's something I did. One big push I had against so many people recommending TypeScript, even professional developers, is I almost never create type errors. With the way I code, I almost never create them. I never created them professionally. It's just not the type of error I would experience, right? And I think there's a certain mindset that you can instill in people where they're not dealing with that. So it's really about you getting exposure to typing within your code that's going to make you a little bit more marketable. But again, it's just a small portion of what you need to learn. So I'm considering like within the time frame, what is like the big deficits that developers have, and you putting types into your code base, it's a very small portion of that. You know what I mean? You getting exposure to a CSS library, it's a very small portion of that. Where like you might have one company, or you might have a few companies that like really would love you to hit the ground running with Bootstrap. They heavily use Bootstrap. But you shouldn't be preparing for these abstractions. The only abstraction that you truly should be preparing for is like at least getting some exposure, not exposure, but like some knowledge with compiling your CSS and being able to scale that. Testing is a big one. What was I thinking? I just lost my train of thought. No, that's it. I think I was just going through this list, and I'm like, SCSS is probably something we're going to dive a little bit more into, because I think this is still common enough on the front end where we got to get some depth in there. Other than that, it's like you can learn, like Next.js is going to be very specific to a few companies, and if you just have a bunch of Next.js jobs in your area that could be relevant to you, you got to supplement that. But this is not, way too many aspiring developers focus on this. Okay. Will you cover Vite? That's actually a good question. My question in my head is, am I going to cover Webpack? I don't... Like, Vite is a day. Webpack is longer. Yeah, like Vite is going to be, like Vite is pretty self-explanatory. Like we'll probably use Vite to spin up a React application. And I think getting comfortable with command line, I probably should put that, command line. I don't like, no, we're not using the GitHub GUI. No, we're not doing that. We're jumping into the command line. I can't even talk today. Holy shit, Don. Words. We're going to be jumping into the command line. I think it's really important to go over some fundamentals. We're not really diving into backend. We're not going to be building out a bash script. We're not going to be doing any of that. But I want you to navigate through different folders. I want you to be comfortable with Git commands through the command line. I think this is important. My question is, should we dive into Webpack? I'm leaning on no, but it will make you more marketable. That's another thing. So that's the thing. Initially, like most of this stuff was within 3 months, which is why I added month 4, which I'm glad I did. I'm like, man, I'm almost like 5% Webpack. I don't think so. Will you cover data algorithms? Yep. Yeah, the first 4... 1 to 4, we're definitely going to go over some DSA and CSS fundamentals, or CS fundamentals, but we're going to go heavier into DSA challenges every single week, probably going over a single data structure week by week. I don't think, man, I really don't think going into any heavy sort algorithms or anything like that is actually beneficial for you. I don't think those are the type of algorithm challenges you're going to get. I find on the front end, it's more practical challenges and you just being able to take a problem, contextualizing it, and figuring out how to create this technical solution to solve this problem. I don't think we're going to go heavy into any sorting algorithms, but I think having a good knowledge of like what data structures are helpful, that's going to be... that's probably going to be necessary. I think recursion, I'm still on the fence with recursion. I think going over recursion towards the end is going to be beneficial. I think there are practical use cases to keep your code pretty clean. I don't think recursion is efficient, but I do think recursion can help keep things pretty tidy with things that don't require a lot of iterations with recursion. So I'm on the fence about recursion, but yeah. We're going to be going through it, and then DSA, I actually should mention this. Month 6 is also DSA. It's only front end. There is no... if you want me to add back end, yo, we're adding 6 months onto this. We're adding 6 months onto this. And we're going probably like... We're going really heavy into the back end. This is a 6-month program. There's no way in hell I am adding backend. So what I will be doing, actually, this is a thing. So I'm either going to be using, it's probably going to be Firestore. Honestly, or it's going to be, what is the relational database that I've said 1,000 times? Or another cloud relational database. I actually think I'm probably going to lean towards a relational database. What is it? I've said it like 1,000 times. Can anyone think of what cloud database thing I'm thinking of? I don't remember. But I think to build a real product, you are going to need to be able to store information. You're going to need to be able to manipulate information. This is where I think a lot of front-end projects are kind of weak. I don't think you need to learn backend to do that. I think you need to be able to set up a cloud tool to be able to do that. I think that's necessary. Because you need, like, I think just leaning on like local storage or something like that, it's very hard to create. It's not Mongo, no. I mean, we could just use Atlas, but no, it's not Mongo. I would just use Firestore. Yeah, Mongo's non-relational. It's a relational database that I'm thinking of. The name will come to me as soon as I end the live stream. It will. I promise you it will. But it's probably going to be something else besides Firestore. But if not, Firestore is fine. I think you just need to be able to create a real product, a real professional-looking product. Like, I'm probably going to lean on a SaaS product for the Capstone. It's not going to be this, like, incredibly polished thing immediately, but it's going to have all of its components that you're going to continue working on. I want it to be a project where, like, you guys are promoting it. You are getting users behind it. You are getting feature requests. This is a project that stands out when you build a real thing that people use. And when I say, like, a SaaS product, I'm not even saying you need to charge for it. I'm saying that you need to build something that people give a shit about. It's not Postgres now. No, so I'm thinking of kind of a... Fuck, what is it? I'm thinking of a cloud relational database where you're just kind of going to bring in an SDK, hook it up, and you're just going to basically have methods to be able to interact with it. Firestore is NoSQL, Firebase is the GOAT. I think it's way more relevant to dive deep, like to dive into a relational database first as an aspiring backend developer. I don't think you should be diving into GraphQL necessarily as a front-end developer. Before you get your first position, I think learning good RESTful practices and just like getting standard HTTP status codes and like being able to lean on that to create conditional logic of what you serve up to the user is important. But I don't know if front-end developers should be diving into like interacting with a non-relational database. I got to think through that, to be honest. Amazon S3, no back-end providers, ain't nothing like that. Amazon S3 is, I don't think you could set up like any sort of like cloud database with that. Maybe you can, but typically it's going to be hosting what you're executing. I'll think of it. I can't think of it. Thank you for trying, though. I appreciate just tossing names out in chat. Am I making a coding bootcamp with the price? I don't think this is a I don't want to call this a coding bootcamp. It's not a coding bootcamp. It's just not. I don't really call programs that have a bit of a self-learning as a coding bootcamp. I know a lot of coding bootcamps call themselves a coding bootcamp like that. I don't think they should. I don't think they're a legitimate coding bootcamp. I don't think this is a coding bootcamp. I think it's like a group mentorship with a self-learning curriculum and heavily focused on the mentorship. That's like, what do I call that? I don't know. I have no idea what to call it. Do you think there's value to stretching the capstone to 2 months? This might provide better exposure for students prioritizing work as a group while also managing a backlog of low priority tasks. A month is a long time. Thanks, Small. Typically with a boot camp, you're going to probably spend a week on your project. You build a few projects. I mean, some coding boot camps will spend a bit more. Is there value? Yes. To answer your question, there's definitely a lot more value. But I honestly, I almost think creating this capstone project and getting exposure to the group work is probably more important. I want to train you to build like a real solution that will be useful. And I think what I'm going to be encouraging is a solo project afterwards, right? Month 6, you should be coding still. Like after month 5, until you get that dev job, majority of your time is spent building a project. And so either you are going to be continuing this capstone project with your group, or you're going to be diving into a solo project with the knowledge that you've gained with month 5. So do I want to add an extra month? If people want it, I will. But I gotta up the... I mean, it's just gonna be longer. It's gonna be 7 months. I think 6 months is a pretty big commitment already. But yes, to answer your question, would there be more value? Yes. But it's always trying to find that like perfect sweet point where people are comfortable with that commitment. And if we keep extending it more, I don't know if extending the capstone to 2 months is a great idea for the price point. Does that make sense? So I don't know. So why are you making a new product on? Do you think there is enough good quality free resource out there? What sets this up? Okay, I'm catching up a little bit. Luke, when did you get here? Because I feel like how much do I elaborate? I don't want to go into basically what I just said for the last hour and a half. So let me focus on your question. I think the first question we already answered with the title. Do you think there are enough good quality free resources? And I've answered this as well. I think the curriculum is extremely irrelevant. I don't think... I think choosing the curriculum that moves you forward is a very small portion of your journey as a developer. And I think most self-taught developers fail because they lack guidance and mentorship and accountability. So I don't think what I'm trying to fix is building another curriculum. I'm just outsourcing my curriculum. I don't think that's the part that needs to be solved with self-taught. So does that answer your question? It's highly mentorship focused. It's not Azure, no. You checked out Terso, never heard of it. Railway is a host. I mean, it's essentially a host, but you're still going to have to set up some sort of backend. No, Dewey, that's diving into... That's going to extend this way more. That's going to extend this way longer if I'm going to be building a backend. I don't think front-end developers should be diving into that at all. I think way too many people like have built this misconception.
The greatest language ever made.
Give me 1 year, please.
1 year for what? What's up, Pseudo? How you doing, man? I saw you started streaming again. Yeah, Pseudo's been working on a game for a long time. If you're into game development, I would check out what he's doing on Twitch. But that was Pseudo supporting JavaScript as usual. Oh, you're at 12 months. Oh, I'm on Restream chat, so I don't see it. Okay. Damn, you are at 12 months. Holy shit, you've been subscribed for a year. That's crazy, man. Thank you so much. I do appreciate the support. Yeah, Pseudo and I go way back. Back in the day of Twitch. Yeah, I hope you're doing well. What was I saying? So I think there's a big misconception that I think coding bootcamps have created to be marketable for front-end positions. You need to learn the backend. I don't think that's true. I think you just set up a cloud database and have something to interact with that database, and I think that's fine. I think that's a big misconception a lot of aspiring front-end developers have. And another thing that adds to that misconception is there are front-end developer jobs drying up a little bit, right? This is obvious. This is not news. That, the market is very oversaturated. But you're seeing a lot of full stack positions that very rarely hire new developers. And so you have this misconception that to get in the industry, you have to learn the full stack when those really aren't the jobs you're going for. You're probably, whether you lean on backend, whether you lean on front end, you're probably going with something that has a high emphasis on either or. And so what I am doing is creating something that's going to help aspiring front-end developers just get really good with front-end rather than creating cookie-cutter full-stack developers like every other coding bootcamp is doing. I just want to focus on one. If I'm going to create a backend, it's going to extend a year. This entire thing is going to be a year if I want to really teach backend as well. So what you're adding, I would say, is not worth the time whatsoever. And I would even be skeptical. I would almost rather create like a backend curriculum and a back-end program and separate the two. I think way too many people are trying to become full-stack developers, and they're not full-stack developers. I just call them cookie-cutter developers. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks, Don. We'll keep the eye out for your course. And I'll include the link. So I'm going to include a link to the form in the comments below if you want to sign up. I've created a community post about it. I've mentioned it on Discord. I included that link there. But I'm going to talk to every single individual, allow you to ask questions before you sign up. And I'm going to make sure it's a good fit. I'm not just taking anyone. I'm only taking 8 people, so I want to make sure it's a good fit. I want you to get the value out of it. That's the main thing. I don't want to charge people that aren't going to benefit from this. I just don't. I want to go back to mentoring. I want to help people. I actually really missed the technical mentorship. I really miss teaching. I want to go back to it. Yeah, no problem, Luke. Do you have an idea what times a day you'll be available to mentor? Evenings. Evenings Central Time. It might be like 5:30 to 8:30 or like 6:30 to 9:30 Central Time. Most likely. I want to get, once we get the group, I want to get their schedules. I want to make sure, like, that could slightly change, but that's going to be very dependent on the group. I think I can be flexible if, like, majority of the group, like, had a specific time frame that they wish I had, like, available on one day, but it's most likely going to be evenings. And so I've even been thinking about, like, it's probably going to be Monday through Thursday, 3 hours each day, and for 8 people. If I get 6 people, it's probably going to be Monday through Wednesday, or like Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, or something like that. And that's probably how I'm going to do it. It's just basically 3 hours per 2 people that I have, for every 2 people that I have per week. But I think the benefits start happening actually a little bit more when we have more people. My fault. I didn't catch that. This is front end. Oh, no, you're good. No worries. Yeah, it's definitely just front end. So you were thinking when you were recommending some of that, gotcha. Kind of like a typical, like, cookie cutter bootcamp. Also, thank you for the shout out. Yeah, you're welcome, man. I also agree with him on this. On what? On front end developers specifically. Is that what you agree on? Sorry, I know I'm a little behind in chat. I'm finally catching up. Yeah, okay, gotcha. Well, that's the thing. It's like, oh man, people spend so much time and money on a coding bootcamp to know a lot of, just have a lot of surface level knowledge. And it requires a lot more ramp up time from companies. And without a solid foundation, man, it's just that ramp up time increases. A solid foundation, this is why CS grads are preferred. Like a CS graduate for even just like front end developer positions can usually be a little bit more marketable. Like it can be trusted that you're going to have a bit more of a solid programming foundation. And that you've been doing it for like fucking 4 or 5 years or whatever, and you have a commitment towards coding, like you enjoy it. So so many people just have surface level knowledge of the front end. They've never written a test before. They've never even experienced recursion. I give you a practical use case for why I had to use recursion on the job. They don't really know good as SEO, right? A lot of companies, they get a lot of their customers and just traffic and ultimately money based on front-end developers creating an application with good fundamental SEO concepts. They get it from organic traffic. Organic traffic is huge. And it's free. Well, it costs engineering time, but essentially, it's... Once you get it up there, it's just amazing for growth over the years and building authority and just like good UX fundamentals. Like you can interact with web designers a little bit better. Just a good front-end developer will be able to benefit from at least learning from their designer of like what's important, and they can make recommendations and they can have meaningful conversations because it's going to be a back and forth with the designer in a professional developer position. And you're going to have knowledge over the system of components that you've created, and you are going to have empathy for what the designer is trying to create, which the designer has more knowledge of the user needs. The designer has more knowledge of the business needs, typically when you're a junior developer. And so being able to have a meaningful conversation, knowing when to push back, when to recommend, like just creating a really good conversation and relationship with that designer because you actually give a fuck about the user experience, that's huge. That is huge. With established tech teams, you're probably going to be talking with UX or the designer. So it's just stuff like this that just keeps getting dropped out of coding boot camps, which is why I just like heavily want to focus on front end and like really get the front end down. What project ideas do you have in mind for group mentorship program for the Capstone project after month 6? It's going to very much relate to what people want to work on and what types of jobs they're aiming for and the type of industry they're aiming for. I'm not interested in developing templated cookie cutter projects. I think that's an extremely weak project. And if like, I highly recommend, if you haven't already, please read this blog post. I'm going to post it. I'll post it like every stream if I have to. This is so important. Where is it? Definitely read this blog post. I think in that case, NoSQL is probably better call. Front-end engineers won't have to worry about data modeling anyways. I don't know if I agree, because I think there is an assumption. There's a lack of knowledge of how heavy of queries front-end developers are making. And I think getting the query right, based on you understanding the relationships and the amount of data in the table and the SQL and the joins that are going to have to happen, based on you connecting that data and then ultimately getting the list that you want, is relevant. I actually think that's a weak point among front-end developers. And when you are just interacting with Mongo, I generally see less of an emphasis on figuring that out. I think as a front-end developer, being able to make optimized queries to the backend is relevant. And I feel like it's easier to teach that when you have a relational database. Half-stack devs. You should be aiming for a half-stack dev, JF. Your thing looks very good to me. I appreciate that, Northern Chimp. I appreciate you guys fleshing this out. I don't know, you can just watch a stream. Let's scroll through it. That's kind of like the outline that I have so far. I don't know how well written it is because I don't write things in a structured way when I'm writing it and talking on stream, but this is pretty much what I've come up with so far. So if you guys have questions, excuse me, like I said, anyone that's interested, just sign up for the forum or through the forum, and we'll meet, we'll talk, we'll see if it's a good fit. I'm not going to bring you in if it's not a good fit. I don't want you to waste your money. So if you're interested, you want to hear more about it, I might do like a giant group conversation about it where we just hop on Discord, do a stage event. I think that'd be fun. Or we do like one-on-ones and we just do quick 15-minute conversations to see. But I might do something like that. But I appreciate everyone like, challenging it and kind of asking questions, and it's helped me think through it. And ultimately, like, it's probably going to alter and form a little bit based on the group's needs. And where I see like weak points and stuff like that. But I think we come up with like a fairly good initial outline. And the order of like month 1 to 4 is probably going to be determined by the curriculum as well. What happens if people drop out of the program? It's going to be no refund initially, but it's a monthly. So I want to bring people in that would only drop out if they have a major life change. Right? How I'm going to do that is I'm probably it's going to be money up front for the month, no refund for that month, but probably not a contract for the full 6 months. Right? So that makes it so it doesn't dig me into a hole. But it also, if someone has a major life change, they've only spent that money for the month and they don't owe the following 5 months. And I need to figure out a way to choose the right people that are in it for those 6 months unless a major life change happens. How I'm going to do that, I'm still figuring that out, but that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Does that make sense? And like I said, if we bump it down, like, let's say, like 2 people had major life changes, we bump it down to 3 days a week. And I think that system works where, you know, you're not out, if like a major life change happens, you're not out like $1,000 or something like that. Or whatever else. What's a reasonable salary expectation for a front-end developer in today's market? You'll probably do some research on that. But Freddie, we're going to be doing a Q&A on Friday, though. That question is probably more suited for that. Keep in mind, we do a Q&A every Thursday at 5 p.m. Central Time, but, you know, Thanksgiving. So I'm going to spend some time with family. But we should be doing a Q&A this week on Friday. If you prefer relational, that means the students would have to somewhat understand NoSQL. It's a pretty big undertaking to tack onto the course. I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think they have to learn SQL, but I think they need to get exposure to like a table structure on the back end. They need to get exposure into like, if this is probably going to happen in the Capstone project where they're planning out the data. I want them to plan out the data initially before they start coding. I think that's still a good practice for a front-end developer. And I think, you know, we'll probably have a conversation of like, okay, well, how could this scale and how can we limit our application breaking if it does scale? And we're going to talk about like what's really going to be populated with the database. I want front-end developers to think through that. I don't think they have to learn SQL commands to be able to do that. And I don't see a big time investment because of that. I just think the return on investment in terms of time where you can drill down even further on another front-end concept. You know, like, we would have to see where we're at. I'm not completely against just leaning on Firestore. I'm not completely against it. But we would have to be like kind of behind to lean on a non-relational database, because I still think front-end developers planning out this project, I still think going through the thought process of planning out like what data do we need, what's going to be stored, what's going to be manipulated is a good front-end practice before you start diving into the code. Yeah. So maybe you make a good point with like in terms of like the time investment. But this is me thinking that we're going to have enough time to go over it for the Capstone project. But we're probably going to learn when it comes to hosting, we're going to go over that through the Capstone project. Probably, you know, it probably makes sense to do a small we're going to be doing several small projects, but it probably makes sense to do that throughout the learning phase, or like towards the end of the learning phase, set up like a hosting solution and figure that out. Basic SQL isn't that difficult. Plus, I think it's helpful for front-end developers to understand the data model, or at least be familiar with it. It's familiarity for sure. I think it's exposure. I think it's just exposure to see like how things can get out of hand with the backend very quickly without understanding the SQL command that would make that happen. You don't need to remember the SQL command. I think just understanding that even just joins can make a very unoptimized query, and that there's value in truly understanding how to interact with a backend to be able to make an optimized query. I think there's a lot of value in that. Is that like the thing that really needs tons of focus? Not necessarily. Don't have much to add. Just want to say I'm enjoying the stream. Glad to hear it, Andrew. Hey, Dom. Was it SQLite? No. A provider? It wasn't a provider. Fuck. Why can I not think of this? Holy shit. Now it's starting to irritate me. What cloud database solution am I thinking of? It's free. I swear I'm going to remember it as soon as I turn off the stream. What's up, Mahan? How you doing? No. We're talking about a relational database. What is the free cloud relational database that I am thinking of that people can take advantage of? I literally typed it out in Discord what it was. I'm just speaking from experience because I always had to optimize queries so that the front-end engineers can get the things they need behind the API. But so you of course you have to be able to optimize and like expand your RESTful API to be able to, well, not necessarily expand it, but you might need to guard against unoptimized queries. But also, backend should be pushing for frontend to make the correct queries, right? I would argue with a non-relational database, it's very easy, and I've seen a big common practice of not putting enough emphasis on making optimized queries. You're not wrong in it's like, is this a trade-off we need to make? But I think there's very little time investment in picking up a free cloud relational database. It's the same time investment you're making in Firestore. It doesn't make much sense to use Firestore in that situation. No clue. Yeah, me neither. That helps. Now, it's not MySQL. Fuck. All right, this is irritating me. Hold on. Yeah, cloud. It's in Ask a Question. So from Don the developer, in Ask a Question. It's our archived channel. Where are you? It's one of my threads. Or no, I responded to it. I don't know. I don't know. This is bugging me now. I'll figure it out. I don't know. Joao? I don't know. Probably butchered that. Welcome. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I'll figure it out. I'll definitely figure it out. Happy Tuesday, Toki. How you doing? Okay, cool. So, that's pretty much what I'm offering. Any other questions about it? Anything like that? And for those that, like, you know, this isn't for them, like, I feel like I gave a lot of good, like, I'm trying to show where people are lacking, where a lot of self-developers or self-taught developers are lacking in their knowledge. And I'm just going to emphasize this, right? Like, anyone watching, you don't have to sign up. Let me just emphasize this again, and hopefully this is helpful. But generally, people have really, like, no depth of knowledge in CSS and JavaScript. They dive too deeply into React. They don't really prioritize semantic structure with the HTML. Their fundamental knowledge of SEO and UX is severely lacking, and I think being a user-centered developer is going to be incredibly important. Just being a user-centered developer and even just focusing on a little accessibility will give you an SEO boost. SEO brings natural traffic to companies, pretty much free traffic, like not upfront free traffic, but over time free traffic. And then I think source control, for some reason, coding bootcamps don't do this. Some coding bootcamps lack Redux. I think having, like, just getting a little bit more comfortable with more of kind of just a data flow manager would be helpful. But for some reason, like, some coding bootcamps lack this. I think that hurts them. Testing is secondary. I think this needs to be more of a focus. And I think for front-end developers, DSA, I think, like, this, I might just point people towards CS50, to be honest, to supplement after the coding bootcamp. That might be a thing. I think DSA is something front-end developers, you're just going to be tested over it. I don't care what your opinion is. You're going to be tested pretty often over it. You might not be. You might not be. That is true. But this is something you should prepare for. And I think we need to prepare early. But either way, like, practicing this on your own, if you're just a self-taught developer, keep going with that. I think way too many people lean on, they're going to interact with GitHub. They're leaning on the GUI. I think getting comfortable with the command line is incredibly important as a front-end developer. I think going over a cloud relational database or just a cloud database and bringing that into your application can really transform your basically personal project into a real product, into a real solution, because most solutions are going to store shit. That's just a reality. It doesn't have to. And especially if you're aiming for backend, like building tooling and contributing to open source tooling can be really beneficial for you. But front-end developers, generally, like, I think you're going to build a really strong project focusing on building a SaaS product, even if you don't charge for it. Generally, that's going to store shit. And you don't want to store it in local storage. We'll go over that. But I think a lot of people lack SCSS knowledge. I think this is common enough where it's important. I think TypeScript is less important. This is learned quickly. Given more time passes 6 months, I think you should pick up TypeScript. If your local area, which I think is rare, has a lot of jobs in Next.js, you should probably pick up Next.js. If your local area has Bootstrap or Tailwind and a lot of job postings, you should supplement with that. I think Webpack is like having some fundamental knowledge, and like we're going to be leaning on Vite to set up your React app. I think it's very easy to be able to do that, and I don't think you should worry about some Webpack config when you are learning React. I think that's too heavy. But I think setting up a basic configuration for your Webpack, and especially setting up a dev kind of configuration and a production configuration that's very basic for your React app. I mean, like, I don't even know the difference you're going to need. Well, no, never mind. But scrap what I just said with that. But either way, I think like supplementing with Webpack after this could be a little bit more marketable, especially if you're seeing it in a lot of job postings. Most of this, like this, probably going to supplement afterwards. Most of this, it's situational. We should definitely dive into SCSS. But all that, again, all this you could dive into on your own. And then the Capstone, I think people should do a group project. This is where everything comes together, and I think you need strong mentorship for it, because I've seen a lot of group projects and coding boot camps where they're not getting the right mentorship, they're not getting code reviews, someone's not on top of them, right? And they're doing their own code. I think you should do your own code reviews, but also you should have an instructor looking at the code. And then diving deeper into DSA, a lot of front-end developers lack this. And this is where... Like, I hate to say it, this is like 50% of becoming a developer. I've listened to people describe their career services at coding boot camps, and it just fucking sucks. Careers, like, this is what you're highly paying for. It's getting a strong strategy. It's solidifying this and doing it the right way. And coding boot camps drop the ball over and over and over and over with this. Self-taught developers drop the ball over and over and over with this. The weakness that I see with a lot of self-taught developers generally is a depth of knowledge, and this, with a lot of coding boot camps, it's still a little bit of a depth of knowledge, but it's highly this as well. No matter what path you're going through, people keep fucking up the strategy, or they're not consistent with it, or they don't know how to be critical of their strategy if they're doing the right thing. Again, all of this you can learn on your own. Keep pushing forward. Try to get a little bit of mentorship. You don't have to sign up for something like this. Just, try to just pay a professional software engineer like every once in a while to like look over this, someone that can actually give you legitimate experience or legitimate feedback for the type of position you're aiming for. Don't just like get a random backend developer to give you advice on how to become a front-end developer. Don't do that. Make sure it's very niche into like, okay, I want to become this person. Let me see if this person is willing to mentor me, partially. You could do that. But anyways, that's essentially like my advice for this. So hopefully this can at least give you a bit of an outline of like where I think people are lacking. What's up, Spark? Supabase! Holy shit! Thank you, Oscar. Supabase is what I'm thinking of. I think it's still free. Supabase is what I'm thinking of. Man, thank you. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I think it's because React's context API is pretty good now. You don't really need a state management system anymore. You don't necessarily... Most apps don't need state management system. It is still something that is very scalable and much easier to debug with a larger application. So... most applications don't need it. You should learn it. As an aspiring front-end developer, you should pick up a state management library. Absolutely. Oh, gotcha. I usually want to abstract all that away for the front-end engineers so these things don't get in your way, but I think smaller companies don't have that luxury. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, a lot of companies are going to aim to do it yeah, we'd have to dig into the company and what their needs are. But yeah, that's essentially what my argument was. I think it is beneficial for front-end developers. Like, that's really impressive. You're probably going to talk to a back-end engineer before you join the company, or someone like very versed on the back end within that company. And I think they're gonna bring up some sort of back end conversation that's gonna be relevant. And I still feel like it's gonna be beneficial to know something like that. Doing well, thanks. And you just got home and thought I'd jump on. This looks great. Appreciate that, Toki. Nice. Well, hopefully you can relax now that you finally got home. But yeah, I'm doing awesome. Life's good. Just got done working out before this. I feel good. We'd like to see what you think is missing from Backend Bootcamp. So basically, new camp currently. Yeah, I would have to do a deep dive into that for sure. Where's the place to sign up? Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to post a form link in chat. And then we're going to wrap up the stream. We've been live for a long time. I appreciate everyone walking me through. I appreciate everyone challenging me on some of this stuff. Like, it helped me. I just like the conversation because it helped me think through this stuff. Man, I just want developers to be successful. It actually eats at me. I've been doing so many coding bootcamp reviews, and it actually eats at me how many people they spend so much fucking money and they're not that marketable. It sucks. It actually, it sucked my energy out of it. It's why I don't really enjoy coding bootcamp reviews anymore. It eats at you, you know? Okay, so let me post a link. I'll post it in a pinned comment and chat. But any other questions about it? I'll go for another 10 minutes or so. Any other questions? Challenge anything else with it? Please feel free. And again, I'm going to meet everyone one-on-one or in a big group conversation and just make sure everything's a good. I'm probably going to meet people one-on-one because I think I don't want to just answer questions. I want to make sure it's actually a good fit, and I want to get to know the person. It's probably going to be at least a 15-minute conversation. You're going to have to be comfortable on camera. I don't want this, man, I hate these remote programs where everyone's they keep their cameras off the whole time. Maybe this is my own gripe, but I don't want someone coming on that's going to constantly have their camera off. I think it's harder to create connections. I think it's harder to do pair programming. I think there's, value in actually seeing someone's face and seeing their expressions and seeing, I actually think I'm going to require cameras most of the time. I don't know how controversial that's going to be, but I want people that are willing to be on camera and talk, especially during those part-time hours. I don't want someone that's just going to do the self-taught and not show up for that stuff, because it's not worth your value. Don't do that. Don't pay $500 to just go through a curriculum that I've outsourced. Please do not do that. I actually want it to, I think we need to be on camera. So that's another thing I should emphasize. But anyways, where is my community post? Okay, so here's the form. Let me put it in chat. Holy, what is that redirect? Are you serious? Okay, that's a YouTube. Hold on. Can I just delete that? What the fuck was that? Remove. I'm just removing that whole thing. I can't. Can I not remove my own message in my own Twitch chat? What is this? All right, let me do copy text. Copy. Yeah. There we go. Let me type this in. There we go. That's what I wanted. So if you are interested in something like this, like I said, it's going to be $500 for 6 months. Sign up at that form. Sign up. Goes through a few questions. We'll meet. We'll figure out if it's a good fit for you. And yeah, we'll go from there. Have you ever considered doing 100 devs type thing where it's free? I've considered it. It's not something I can afford to do. But again, 100 devs even has a huge problem where it can only select a few, a certain number of people and stuff like that, and it seems to be pushed more towards agency work. It's a very different direction. And I've seen a lot of holes in 100 devs where I need more time to be able to build something better. Does that make sense? Like, and this is like, he has a heart in what he's doing, and he's trying to help out as many people as possible, but he's created a program where most people are going to fail. A lot of people that are even signing up for something like that, they just give up. They don't really have the guidance they need. It's very hard to build something scalable like that and create content out of it. Like, he's kind of like fighting an uphill battle to serve most of people that are going through it, which is unfortunate. Like, I love where his heart is with that, but yeah, I would do that way differently, and that requires a lot of time that I don't have for free. I can't afford that. So really, it's about like time allocation. I just can't afford that. Agreed, your exposure to all these bootcamp reviews makes you uniquely qualified. I think so. I think that's a big thing. Freddie, yeah, honestly, Freddie, I think that's a big thing. I've just been paying attention. I've been reviewing not just coding bootcamps, but educational programs for self-taught developers. I've seen the holes. I know it. I know it to a T. I know exactly what front-end, like, what makes front-end developers very hireable, marketable, and where all the holes are. And so many front-end developers, I do feel very confident in that. Don is right. I have no idea what I'm right about, but I appreciate that. I swear, you know what I hate? I need to keep up with chat. Every time I like read a chat message, I lose context of it, and then I have to ask you again. But thank you. I am right, Pseudo, regardless of what that context was. I missed when you were writing it down, but why did you list source control and GitHub separately? What is the difference? Where did I list it separately? I mean, GitHub is source control. Because I wrote source control, which is going to be, I mean, it's not just GitHub, right? Like a remote repository. It's going to be like actually getting comfortable with, wait, we're not using GitHub. Wait. I think I just did it to emphasize, this is separate. I don't know why I separated this. I guess you could kind of combine them, but the emphasis was get comfortable with command line. And one reason to get comfortable with the command line is to be able to interact through Git, through the command line. We're not leaning on the GUI of GitHub. So they're not necessarily separate. Again, like if you read through this again, I probably could organize this way better, but I'm just like documenting my ideas. So we're like talking about it, and then I'm like, oh, new idea that's relevant to this, and that's why I just typed this out. So maybe I'm repeating myself a little bit. Doing cameras helps with getting ready for interviews as well. It's huge, Emmett. Yeah, I 100% agree. Welcome to YouTube. It's actually really huge. I think being able to read people's facial expressions is big. I don't think you need to become a professional at reading people's facial expressions, but I think people innately can read people's facial expressions. And I think you need to also, it's almost like anxiety inducing, right? You're going through so many practice problems through no camera whatsoever. You're interacting with other developers with no camera whatsoever. All of a sudden you hit an interview where the interviewer is fucking staring you down with a death stare, right? You aren't going to always get the friendliest interviewers. I want you to be able to handle a little intimidation. I want you to be able to handle like an interaction that isn't like perfectly suitable for your personality. And I think just getting exposure to talking to other developers face to face is very beneficial. Is it better than in person? Hell no. In person's always going to be better. But this is way cheaper. It's not going to be in person. So yeah. You can delete the Twitch link. Why can you delete the Twitch link? You can delete... Wait, why can you delete my Twitch link? Wait, why can my own mods delete my own chat message? That actually worries me more than anything. That makes sense. Huge commitment. Yep. As much as I want to stick around, I'll go into lurk mode. Thanks for the stream. Hey, thanks for joining, Pseudo. Appreciate that. Glad to see you streaming again. Under devs is basically, I don't know what MOOC means, but there's also a lack of depth in his material. Yeah, the accountability is a big one, but there's a lack of depth in his material for sure. I've analyzed that. I've seen the projects built from it. I think it's a good start. Like you can, like, if that appeals to you, that type of teaching, you might consider it. It could be a good start. But there are a lot of holes in his program. I've talked to a lot of developers. I've seen the resumes. I've had people submit their resumes, and I've looked through their projects. There are a lot of holes in the program for sure. I don't think it's just accountability. You've used GitHub GUI too much, GUI? Yeah. Gonna head to bed. Great stream. Thanks, Black Kojak. Have a good night. Thanks for joining us. See the trash can forward with the option to delete, but I haven't tried. Would you like me to? Yeah, can you try deleting the chat message that has the big YouTube redirect link? I have no idea why I don't see that trash message. I don't see any trash messages. I don't... What the hell? That's are you in mod chat? You might be in mod chat. I'm just in normal Twitch chat. Maybe that's what it is. All right. I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Anyways, thanks for helping me talk through this. I'm going to leave this public. Sign up. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me if I can clarify anything or like leave it in a comment or something like. I don't know if I'll get to the comments, but I would DM me, maybe email me, and I'll most likely get to it from there. It doesn't look like you can delete the message. Okay. But yeah, anyways, if this appeals to you, cool. Sign up with the form link. I'm going to leave that in the pinned comment. I'm going to leave this up on Twitch, but look at the form link in chat. And then, yeah, we'll talk. We'll make sure it's a good fit. Anyways, that's it. Guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for walking through this with me. I do appreciate that. Yeah, join Discord if you haven't already. And of course, doesn't delete. Okay. Gotcha. Good to know, Toki. Before I forget, everyone that does support me through Patreon, YouTube membership, Twitch subscription, and SudoKid just hit like a year. Crazy, supporting me for a whole year. No idea why you would do that, but thank you. But anyways, have a good night. I'm going to be live tomorrow. I think I'm going to be going over You Don't Know JS. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But I'll try to get a live Q&A in this week. Maybe it'll be tomorrow. I don't know. Join Discord. I'll announce it. Have a good night, everyone. Good luck on all of your projects, and happy coding. Take care.